accurate information on the nerdy topics that are near and dear to your heart, well, let me tell you, you ended up in the wrong place. Here, we're all about hot takes and grandiose displays of misinformation, so stick along for the ride, and you might just blow a blood vessel or two. So, I'm leading this episode. I will be teaching Ian about two planeswalkers that recently came out in Magic the Gathering. And these planeswalkers will be Will and Rowan Kenrith. Will is a blue mage and Rowan is a red mage. The first set that they were in was Battle Bond. They were used to showcase the partner with mechanic. You could actually have two planeswalkers as your commander. If you don't know, Battle Bond was used as a supplement to the two-headed giant commander format. They put in a lot of spells that allowed you and someone on your team or another player to pay for part of the spell, or interact with people. You could choose like friend or foe on some of the cards. Very cool set. A lot of good cards for commander. A lot of great cards came out of that, and it was the first introduction of these two planeswalkers that were somehow tied together. We knew that they were siblings, but we didn't know like just quite how special they were in Magic the Gathering.
I'm now realizing why I recognized the Kenrith name. Planeswalker can be your commander, is partner. It's literally my weapon.
Yeah. So, besides Commander Legends, these are the only two planeswalkers that can both be your commander. And the deck would be Is It colors, so it's like literally right up your alley.
Literally my wet dream, actually, though. Holy shit. Also, so you mentioned red and blue mage. Coming from a Tolkien perspective, that means a lot. Like is that like a different power level or a different type of magic? Because like obviously magic has the 5 colors. So is it just like, is blue mage does blue, is red mage does evocation,
right, so,
basically? Or is it like, okay, so it's not like a red mage is more powerful than a blue mage, which is less powerful than a fucking white mage, which isn't true. I don't know why I went to white.
It's just
even if that was how the system worked, that would not be a true statement, I'm sure.
Correct. It's more of just like the powers at their disposal.
Gotcha.
Just like the quickest crash course on how Magic started. The players, the people actually playing the cards, were the planeswalkers. And the cards that you played were your summons and your spells, and that's how it sort of started out. Like a lot of card games start with you being like the central character, but as it got bigger and they started fleshing out the world, they actually started writing stories to it, and they had these big characters, and then all of a sudden one of them teleported to another plane of existence. And that was sort of like the first introductions of Planeswalker in story. Then we got Planeswalkers as like an actual mechanic, and that's the Planeswalker that you know now, where they have the loyalty that you plus up or subtract down, and then they have like the quote unquote ultimate ability where you subtract a whole bunch of loyalty, but like the power and the effect is so powerful that like it's honestly like game ending, or at least game changing.
Yeah, Teferi's -8, get a token that says I take 2 turns.
Yeah.
Pretty fucking good.
To get back to them, yes, there is a distinct difference between the color mages that you are. Just to sum up these two colors, blue is frost magic, mind control, counter spells, transmutation in the sense of like polymorph, and then red is like your burn spells, like lightning, fire. There's also like haste in red. Red is like the color of emotion at its like rawest point. and blue is the color of like a more. It's like a more stoic magic if we're personifying it like that. Red
that makes sense,
loud and quick, and blue is stoic, calculating. So that's kind of like the disparity between these two. We'll see that when I go over the story. But they have 4 cards that are all tied, that all tie the two twins together.
Is this including the planeswalkers?
Yeah, the 4 planeswalker cards. So there's the Royal Scions from Eldraine, which is actually both of them being represented by one planeswalker card. We have the partner pairing, so using the mechanic partner with of Will Kenrith and Rowan Kenrith. That's from Battle Bond. So those are your partner planeswalker commanders. And then the MDFC, or the modal dual-faced card version from Strixhaven of the two, is Rowan, Scholar of Sparks on the front. So she is your front-facing side, and then Will, Scholar of Frost on the back. Now, I'm not going to go over each ability because that would be annoying, but to show what their magic is capable of, we can find effects that are very similar to individual spells that have been printed in Magic. So on Rowan's individual planeswalker, this is the one from Battle Bond, and her side of the MDFC from Strixhaven, she shows Goad Magic, which is almost always a red thing or a red-black thing. She also shows instances of direct damage, whether it be 1 damage, or there's also a way to get 3 damage, which is just a lightning bolt. And she can also copy spell abilities. On the other hand, Will is a blue mage with control over ice magic. So on his individual from Battle Bond and his side of the MDFC from Strixhaven, he shows control over mind magic, which is shown usually via card draw or maybe milling someone. That transformative polymorph magic that I was talking about earlier. And we see that with him changing their base power and toughness of a target, and like removing all the abilities from it, as well as like his frost magic of tapping something down. And that's usually how like frost magic is shown in Magic, is like something taps and doesn't untap, or like you freeze it, so it has to thaw first. It's like the reasoning, I suppose. And then on the Royal Scion card, which is the one from Throne of Eldraine, which is the plane that they're actually from, they have 2 abilities, 2 loyalty abilities that tick the loyalty up one, and they represent one of the twins. So the first one is draw a card and discard a card. That is Will, being card draw. And then the other one is give a creature +2/+0 and first strike. And that is a very classic red magic ability, giving your creatures power and making them hit first. And then...
See, when you said that at first, I almost thought, oh, the draw and then discard could be her. Because that reminds me of, like, I always forget the name of the mechanic, the faithless looting type of thing. Of draw, but... Oh, looting, that's what it's called. Oh, okay, yeah. I'd say I almost was like, oh, that could be like a looting mechanic, but yeah. +2/+0 and first strike. Pretty objectively.
Yeah, so I think in terms of balance, they added the discard. Typically in blue, you just have high mana cost but draw a lot of cards, and then for low mana cost, there are cards that like draw you 2 and then you discard 1, or draw you 3 and then discard 2 unless you discard a certain card type. Stuff like that is also blue. And that's kind of like the way it works in red. Typically is you discard a card first and then draw.
Gotcha.
So drawing and then discarding, typically blue, discarding and then drawing is red. But the ultimate on the Royal Scion Planeswalker is you draw like a bunch of cards, like 5 cards, and then you deal damage equal to the number of cards in your hand. So the drawing of 5 cards, that's very much Will, and then that damage is very much Rowan. And that's honestly, that was like the perfect way for them to show these two planeswalkers working together to get to their, strong point, and then unleashing their ultimate is both of them doing the thing.
Yeah, that's very flavorful of how they tackled that.
I think Will and Rowan are maybe like the biggest flavor planeswalkers they are, just because of the treatment they've gotten. And the way that Wizards has been working towards their card design has really favored these two planeswalkers. But enough of the mechanics and the gameplay. Let's get into the story behind them and how we first met them. So
I'm here for it.
We actually do first meet them not on their home plane, but in Battle Bond. The story is not largely important at this point to know, because honestly, the way that they crafted the story, it was, hey, these two are here and they win. I'll get into that a little bit later, but that was kind of the story of Battle Bond. And then Throne of Eldraine came out after that set, and this is like their origin story. And they were the protagonists of the main overarching story of Eldraine. So the twins' father is High King Kenrith. He is represented on a 5-color card that has a bunch of activated abilities. Each of those activated abilities are like 1 color specifically, and that shows his dominance over his domain and his realm, because there's actually 5 castles and like royal families that he rules over, each of them representing one of the colors. So pretty cool there. However, at one point, their father, King Kenrith, is kidnapped by a planeswalker named Oko and a planeswalker named Garrick. So Oko is a planeswalker who is, I would compare him to like the Joker from Batman, like the Batman with Christian Bale as Batman. Anarchist, fucking with people for the hell of it. That's literally what he does in the lore and his play style.
I'd say, hell, I get that from his art.
Exactly. Like, honestly, what was Wizards thinking when they printed Oko Thief of Crowns? Literally just turning shit into food, or rather making food, turning shit into elk, and then swapping them around.
I mean, it's pretty funny, though.
It's pretty funny, and that's why he was banned in all formats except for Commander, and maybe limited in Legacy. Anyways.
See, to me that sounds like more of a Loki, even though, like, Loki definitely exists in MTG. I'm sure he's not called that, but I'm sure Kaldheim gave us Loki.
Yeah.
But, like, that sounds real Loki as hell.
You have Valky.
Like, ooh, you're going to take a bite of this food. Oops, it's a fucking live elk. Get out of here, nerd. What are you doing?
You have Valky from Kaldheim as like their Loki.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking of.
And it turns out to be Tybalt. Much the same story beat here for the two of them. I would say that Valky is much more sinister and just lies like Loki would. I don't think Loki is like...
Gotcha.
Trying to dismantle shit in general. Actually, I'm going to take that back. He definitely is.
I see where you're going.
But though, yeah. He is like methodical, which is a very black mana attribute in Magic, which is how they show him in Kaldheim. But getting away from that, Oko transformed the High King into a stag, a large deer or elk, with the antlers and everything. And, to simplify their quest, they had to find and fix their king, who is now a stag. Somewhere along the way, they run into Garrick, a green-aligned planeswalker who summons beasts and, fights with an axe and shit. And he's just, like, very green. And it turns out, shocking no one, if you know anything about Oko, he was being manipulated by Oko. So, Will, uber smart blue mage, says something along the lines of, hey, you've got like a little hedron hanging around your neck, take that shit off. And Garrick does, and he's freed from Oko's influence. But in being freed from that, he succumbs to a curse that was placed on him earlier. It's the Chainveil's curse, which actually has corrupted him with black magic, and has corrupted his summoning abilities, so he can't, like, call his beast to him. And we can thank Liliana for that. She has her hand in, like, everyone's story, because she's the queen. Anyways, after... just so you know, she's not the literal queen in this story. She's just the queen of magic. Very powerful woman who has, like, honestly cheated all sorts of people out of shit. Took a deal with, like, 5 demons and then killed 5 demons to get out of the contract. She fought on Nico Bolas's side and then fucked him over. Anyways, we'll get back to her. She plays... a role in the story later, actually.
She is my
queen. So after they find their father as the stag, kind of crazy actually, their mother flies in with like the knights of Castle Ardenvale, which is the White Castle, and they just like fucking shoot the stag. So as the stag is now dying and like reverting to King Kenrith's body, and like the guard and the queen had like flown off and like fucked off, out comes the queen, their mother, and she's like, oh, you know what? And she like goes to this well that they're near, reaches in there and pulls out like this old fucking sword, and she like magically heals Kenrith with it. So,
I mean, the healing fountain sword, everyone knows about that. Standard stuff.
As their mother is healing King Kenrith, they discover that she's actually their stepmother. And their birth mother is a witch who, after giving birth to them, actually killed both of them and drank their newborn blood to achieve a longer life.
Mm-hmm. Just like in the real world. Yeah.
The sword that their stepmother pulled out of the well, she actually used earlier to kill said witch, and then also used the sword to bring the twins back to life. They found the stag was actually like at this witch's cabin from so far long ago. At one point, the witch had given Kenrith King Kenrith, this is King Kenrith, a potion, like a love potion, and then kept him as a fuck toy for a year.
Yeah.
Got pregnant, killed her babies, got killed because she was doing some fucked up shit. Anyways, magic sword.
All right, I have a question about this.
What?
Oh, okay, yeah, I have a question about this
Yeah,
sword, but it sounds like you're gonna keep talking
yeah.
about
One
it.
second.
All right.
This sword used to heal them had like some magical properties. There's like life force stored in it and shit. It's not that important to the story. Um, what was your question about it?
So you said that her mom pulled it out of a well.
Yeah.
Presumably, she had hidden it in this well.
Yeah, she killed the witch with the sword.
Yup.
And then threw both of them in the well.
At that point, did she know that the sword could bring things back to life? She
used it to bring back her. I don't want to say adoptive kids, but
for lack of a better word, her adoptive kids. So, who is this bitch that's like, man, I have a magic life-saving sword. Let's throw it in a fucking well, right? That makes sense. Was it a hidden well? Was it an invisible well? I have so many questions.
It's deep in the forest.
And it doesn't sound like it's important at all.
I think the way that the sword works, and it's pretty arbitrary because I think it was written kind of poorly. There's a certain amount of life force stored in the sword. And she used some of that life force, must have thought she used all of it, or maybe she recharged it when she killed the witch or whatever it may be, but she used it to heal the twins. Then she killed the witch, leaving the sword. At this point, Kenrith breaks free of the potion, is so pissed off and fucking confused that he just fucks off, like into the woods, doing fuck all. The twins are raised with the stepmom. Kenrith nowhere to be seen. And then that is when they take this quest to find their father and find out he's a stag. So like this whole time he could have been a stag just fucking around in the woods. Really unfortunate luck for this king, but he sort of did the second part to himself. He could have just gone back with the queen and his kids, but I guess he was like ashamed or something and decided he needed to exile himself into the forest. Anyways, back to this snippet of the story where her father or their father is healed back to life, and they discover that their birth mother was a witch. This is an emotionally triggering event. It's a lot to take in. It's traumatic, and that ignites their spark. And they plane shift away.
Gotcha.
They show up on the plane of Kylem, the plane that Battle Bond took place on. Again, this was a supplemental set, not important in terms of like overarching story, but sort of retroactively written in to the story. This is where they meet Kasmina. Now, what you need to know about Kasmina: she's a blue mage planeswalker who has some powers of foresight, and she uses polymorph magic primarily as well, and she's got some owls. Pretty cool shit, right? So after the twins on Kylem win a championship of 2v2 gladiatorial style fighting, Kasmina is talking to them, and she's like, hey, you should go to Strixhaven on this plane, Arcavios, and learn about magic and learn how to control your powers better. So they're like, yeah, why not? We haven't had any sort of guidance up to this point. We just sort of stumbled into this gladiatorial fight and like kicked some serious ass. So they go to Arcavios, and that's the plane that has Strixhaven, the School of Magic, the Hogwarts of MTG. So they arrive to Strixhaven, and they sort of separate for the first time in their lives. They had spent their entire lives working together. They're twins. They do that weird twin thing that nobody that's not a twin understands. So as they separate, they go off and experience different things in college, essentially wizard college. Will hits the books hard. He is hyper focused on becoming more powerful and being able to control their spark better, and that's because he's a fucking nerd. Rowan instead makes a ton of friends, and focuses on gaining just raw power from the world around her. Think of her as like head of cheerleading squad, like a mean girl.
I was about
almost.
to say so. Yeah, I was gonna say so. Will hit the books, Rowan hit the alcohol.
Yeah, kind of.
And I was like, oh no, that doesn't quite work. But yeah, like I had cheerleader vibe. Yeah, that lines up.
So, so Rowan's motives ultimately result in her becoming more powerful. She's pulling like a lot of power from the plane because a plane with a magical university on it, spoiler alert, has a lot of power in the mana of that plane.
So is there like an amount, like can a plane be depleted of magic, or is it just like an infinite font of energy where some of them are stronger than others?
It can be depleted of magic. I think we will cover that on another topic. One, because I don't know a ton about it, and two, because the planes that have been depleted of magic have been sort of like removed from, I guess, like ley lines of like mana and stuff like that. That has a lot to do with Phyrexians and stuff that'll tie into a set that comes out next year. And I actually did want to do a focus video on what to expect from that sort of set. But in the meantime, we'll stick with them just drawing tons of knowledge out of the school in the case of Will, and tons of power from the plane in Rowan's case. Now, as she's pulling in this power, she hasn't been studying how to control it. She's becoming more emotional. She's having outbreaks where, I mean, she's basically throwing lightning around when she gets angry, and she has so much power, like brimming, to like burst out of her form, that every emotion she experiences is amplified. And that's extremely dangerous for a red mage, because most of their power is sort of encapsulated in emotion, in terms of like the identity. So like fire, okay, you know, she would be considered like a Spitfire at this point, because she's like you know, short with everyone, is like snapping into a bad mood with like the slightest comment. So at one point, Will says to her, I think you need to focus on your studies instead of hanging out with friends. And you know, that pisses her off, because she's got lots of friends now, and people that her personality aligns a lot more with than her brother, who while they're twins and they share like this bond, they don't match personalities. They're actually they almost like duel each other, which is, you know, kind of funny to imagine two planeswalkers who, by the way, share a spark. So they're so bound together that they only have one planeswalker spark between them, which is what gives you your power. The idea of them fighting would just be so funny.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
So they're like on the brink of like fighting each other with magic and like trying to hurt each other. And this Professor Onyx steps in, and she's like, you guys need to stop. Now, Professor Onyx is Liliana, for any of you that don't know. She explains to the twins that they're actually more powerful together because they share a spark. So they need to use their powers like in tandem and empower one another, and that's how they will get more powerful. You know, that advice was more directed at Rowan, and then that's how you'll be able to master some of these higher spells that Will has been learning. And then...
So sharing a spark.
Yeah.
Does that make them, like, inherently less powerful than one person with one spark? Like, are they sharing... Say they had 2 sparks. Would each of them be twice as powerful as having 1 spark, or is that, like, not how it works?
It's hard to say. There are some planeswalkers that are just more powerful. Nicol Bolas and Ugin, way powerful, but they've been alive for the entirety of Magic, essentially. They have always existed as planeswalkers, so they might just be that powerful because they've had that much time to grow their powers. I think them sharing a spark is actually... we haven't really gotten to like an issue with them sharing a spark, but I'm going to assume that it actually makes them more powerful based on what's about to happen in the Strixhaven story. So back to Professor Onyx with the twins. Out of nowhere, she's just like, hey, I've been investigating this group called the Auric, the O-R-I-Q. I'm going to call them Auric. Maybe they're Auric. But the Auric are rejects out of Strixhaven, mages that weren't strong enough to be accepted in, and they're super butthurt about it, and they're forming a death cult. No way around that. That's just the truth.
I mean, what else are you going to do?
I mean, very much true on that plane.
You know when you don't get accepted to college and you're like, you know what, fuck it.
Like, let's shoot up the school.
No one gets to live anymore. Yeah.
So... I mean, they basically do vow to kill all of like the staff and the students, and they actually end up creating these like beasts out of like pure black mana called mage hunters that are just like grotesque. Think of like an intellect devourer from D&D, except it's not a brain walking around, it's just like a little body sort of shaped like a brain with a mouth on it, and it is resistant to magic. So it's a mage hunter. So the Auric, they they're the bad guys of Strixhaven, and the twins sort of agree that, hey, you can't just come and kill a bunch of students, so we're gonna fuck your shit up. And
makes sense.
As they decide to do this, we learn that Luca, who is a planeswalker from Ikoria, he forms bonds with beasts and animals. That's his planeswalking power. He joins the Auric for one reason or another. He's like recruited into them, and Kasmina is actually spying on Luca at this point. And Luca's like super pissed off, and they fight. Kasmina wins, sort of, and then has to flee. So Luca loses, sort of, but also kind of takes the W. It's weird situation there. Sounds like they didn't want to take any sort of drastic measures with either of these characters.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a show everyone's power real good.
Yeah.
But oh shit, we like them, no one can
Right.
die.
So
we can't show that much power.
The twins are led through Strixhaven, like the actual campus, in these underground tunnels by Professor Onyx to fight the Auric who have breached into the Biblioplex. This is skipping through like what would be like a training montage, as well as what amounts to basically a siege on Strixhaven. So imagine like the Siege of Hogwarts. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
So imagine that, but like without as
point,
much of like a fight put up by the students and the staff. They kind of get bodied, and the Auric actually end up in the Biblioplex, which is the library where all of the forbidden spells, like the mystical archives, lies. And the leader of the Auric is in there summoning a blood avatar. And the twins meet up there with Professor Onyx through these tunnels, and they get there just as he finishes the ritual. Now, for whatever reason, during the fight, Professor Onyx, Liliana, she gets like yeeted away from the library with like teleportation magic, not plane shifting, so she can't just like go right back. The twins are badasses though. Like, Rowan is just pulling massive amounts of energy from this thing called the Snarl, which is like the plane's mana source, and she is just fueling it in to Will. This is where like their single combined spark is a boon rather than like some sort of disadvantage, because Rowan is, she's throwing lightning bolts and stuff at their enemies, but as she's doing that, Will is like casting this spell that he had studied. It's a huge mind control spell, and he actually mind controls the blood avatar that was summoned, and he uses it to kill the leader of the Auric. And in doing so, he lost a little bit of control as the leader fell, and like effectively the battle was won. Before he could banish the blood avatar, the blood avatar just like sort of ripped his fucking leg off. So he's an amputee, but he makes himself a new leg, like a prosthetic, out of ice. So that's pretty cool.
That's pretty sick, actually. Yeah.
So
Frozen would have been a lot cooler if Elsa would have had like an ice arm.
True. And that's sort of where we leave the twins in their story. They're on Strixhaven, gaining more powerful spells, working together and learning how to work together better. And I'd like to talk about where I think the future for our twins, our twin planeswalker, where they're going to go. So without going super deep into the history of 30 years of story for Magic, I'm just going to hand wave all of that and say there's a huge threat that is just past the horizon. Most people in the Magic community who are like interested in the lore, myself included, think it's the Phyrexians, who are, think of like a master race where they are trying to use like living machines and stuff to make the perfect race.
Gotcha.
And the reason why we start to think this way is in Kaldheim, we got a new Vorinclex card. Vorinclex is one of the Praetors.
Oh yeah, I remember him.
He's one of the Praetors, and on his card, the creature type Phyrexian Praetor is printed, and that's the first time we've seen the creature type Phyrexian printed. And now, if you go into Scryfall or whatever card search engine you use, and you type in the Phyrexian creature type and sort by that, they've actually errated a whole bunch of cards to fit into the Phyrexian creature type. And not only that, but all of the Praetors have been errated into Phyrexian Praetors as well. Now, looking forward at the sets that are coming out, we have Neon Dynasty's Kamigawa, Streets of New Capenna. We have Return to Dominaria, which I think is called Dominaria Reunited, and then we have the Brothers Wars. Without going, too spectacle, I think it's safe to say we will see more Phyrexians by the Brothers Wars. We might get like a hint of Phyrexian corruption throughout the other sets, but the Brothers War refers to Urza a very powerful artificer, and his brother Mishra, who actually fought on Dominaria, and they're both artificers, and they both built like fucking mechas, like on the scale of like Gundams to fight each other. And that's the war that we are going to travel back in time and experience in that set. So to say I'm excited for that is an understatement.
That does sound cool.
But
so we're gonna get probably a little bit of weeb stuff in Kamigawa.
A whole bunch of weeb shit.
I'd say, and I was gonna say, and I only say a little bit because I don't want to have you be like, no, only part of Kawagama is fucking Japanese themed, which didn't seem true. I just didn't want to make that broad statement. So a lot of weeb stuff in Kawagama. And then we get a little bit in Brothers War, hopefully with some big mechs.
Yeah, so the original Kamigawa block, Wizards feels like they didn't do a great job depicting the characters in a original and also like true to, like, for instance, Samurai.
Mm-hmm.
Samurai was just like a warrior creature type. It wasn't like, there's a whole lot more to Samurai that, I mean, I know both
than the word
yeah
Bushido.
Exactly. So that's basically what the first Kamigawa block was just ninjas and samurai and spirits. And I think a large part of the community, they don't think that it was done correctly. And so when they revealed Kamigawa Neon Dynasties, they actually talked about that and said that they wanted to visit it correctly. So I don't think we're going to get like anime levels of like weeb shit, but it's cyberpunk Kamigawa. So we're going to get robot ninjas. It's going to be cool.
Like I said, weeb shit, I think of the announced new blocks, the Cyberpunk Kawagama is like easily the one I'm most looking forward to. The art has looked really cool, and Cyberpunk is just such a cool aesthetic. That is, I think that'll be, not that they all won't be cool necessarily, but like I'm looking forward to that one the most for sure.
Yeah. And you know, back to the Phyrexians, where the twins fit into this sort of future and like the conspiracy that Phyrexians are like just on the horizon, they're about to fuck everything up. Kasmina is a planeswalker that we know so little about, but it seems like she's pulling some strings. When Nicol Bolas was threatening to take the spark of all planeswalkers by drawing them all to the plane of Ravnica, manipulating the immortal sun to like fucking with their sparks and their powers, she was like, damn, this sucks, I'll help you guys, but like, this isn't even the worst to come. That's what's like, what the fuck? She's got some sort of like foresight and
what do you know that we don't?
And like prophetic powers that like she's not even as worried about this. So like obviously she must have seen that everything works out fine. But now like there's this sort of idea that she's recruiting planeswalkers to be a part of like this society to stop whatever's coming next. And she's even like finding people who show signs of being planeswalkers but haven't ignited their sparks yet. And she's calling them embers. You know, like they need the spark and then they're fired.
Yep.
But like there's also been discussion that like she finds these embers and then puts them through a traumatic event so that their spark ignites, and it's like, what the fuck is happening?
Okay, so we got some grimdark coming in there. You got to fight the big evil,
yeah,
even if it means child soldiers.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. So
I'm super on board with that. Now, do we have an actual card for her, or is she?
Yeah, Kasmina has 2 cards, I think.
Okay, yeah. So what are her colors? Like, what are?
Blue.
Is she black? Like, am I expecting Deceit out of forming this underground network of planeswalkers? Like, that's going to come and bite us in the ass.
I could see why you might think that.
After we deal with Phyrexians, because, like, when you establish what I would not at this point in time call a cabal, I'd call it a fighting force, like something for good.
Mm-hmm.
But once you have a group of the most powerful creatures, realistically, or at least the most magically inclined creatures, I'll say for sure, and you defeat the big bad evil, normally you end up becoming the big bad evil. Just not even if because like, oh, it was my plan all along, but it's just like, oh, I'm in charge of everyone that has a say of anything that happens across the universe.
So
I guess I'm in charge of the universe.
She's actually not black colored in terms of mana. She is blue aligned, almost primarily. In Strixhaven, she got her second. I think it's her second. She might have 3, but I think she has 2. One from War of the Spark, and then one from Strixhaven. Her Strixhaven one is blue-green. And I think that's just because she was a head mistress or head instructor of Quandrix. Right. I don't think necessarily that she, shows a lot of green tendencies in her magic.
Mm-hmm. They just literally needed to put her in a school for Strixhaven.
Right. So, in terms of when we're going to see the twins next, I think Kasmina's going to keep them sort of growing in power in Strixhaven. We might see them in Dominaria Reunited, or whatever that next set is called, where we return to Dominaria. I don't think we're going to see them in Brothers War, obviously, since that's set like so far back in time and Magic history. I don't know how we're going to end up there, because it's like one of the core sets. The story gets us there. So probably just Teferi.
Always Teferi.
That's sort of how they get whatever they need accomplished. So we might see them next year. We might have to wait until the Phyrexians become like a huge problem for them to come out and be like the Planeswalkers nukes or whatever,
Right. So is time travel not a thing in MTG lore?
No, it absolutely is.
Oh, okay. So we could, in theory, see Will and Rowan Kenrith in the Brothers War. Whether or not that makes sense, I don't know, obviously. But with time travel, they could, in theory, go back and participate in it?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the way that would be achieved is with Teferi being the one to bring them there. Because he is, like, the big time traveler. Yeah. So, I had a lot of fun talking about the twin planeswalkers and stuff, and I do want to continue to look at MTG lore with you in the future. And after both of the Innistrad sets are out, I do want to do like a dive into what happens on Innistrad, like the story that happens in these next 2 sets is going to be pretty interesting, I think. And I don't think it's going to be like crazy impactful in the overarching story. But we do see Teferi on here, so who knows? I could be lying. He might gain like some new power here.
Right.
But I did want to ask you a couple of questions. So we have had this past year like 4 core sets, right? Well, I guess 5 because there's 2 Innistrads. But we're getting into like this habit of like so we had Kaldheim Strixhaven. D&D took the place of a core set. So like normally we just have like great reprint value and like great new staples. Instead we got D&D, which I don't think is not great. But I might have preferred a core set. Where like
did they not tie Forgotten Realms into MTG lore at all? So like no,
I don't think so. Like we didn't
That's
see.
That's actually really disappointing.
I'm thinking
that would
through
have
the
made
Planeswalkers. We didn't see any Planeswalkers from MTG into Forgotten Realms Magic, so I don't think so.
That's a real fucking shame, because I feel like that could have, one way or another, like, you don't have to change D&D lore to make it fit into Magic, but like you could, and just be like, oh, Magic is like cast the same way in D&D. That's upsetting, actually. I really assumed they were gonna tie it in.
But like ignoring D&D, because it was like our core set, we had Kaldheim, Strixhaven, and then we had Innistrad and Innistrad. So we had new mechanics with Foretell and Boast, and I feel like I'm forgetting one from Kaldheim, but like we get like new mechanics and like our first two sets. Strixhaven had Magecraft, where like you're copying spells and all that stuff. And then we go back to Innistrad and we see like our evergreen mechanics, more prevalent. We are getting Nightbound and Daybound, which is just the werewolf mechanic, but now it has a keyword and it's, fleshed out and makes more sense logically.
Oh my god, it makes so much more sense.
Yeah. The other mechanic we're seeing is Coven, which is new. We're seeing Decayed, which is just making tokens that aren't like busted, because you can only attack with them once. And then Decayed, we return to Flashback, which is a mechanic from Innistrad. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, in the beginning of the year, they are making these changes in the way that we look at Magic. We have what was basically, and I don't mean to sound rude when I say this, but like a cut and paste of Norse mythology into Magic. And they didn't take any creative liberties with it. I don't know if they were like trying not to upset like the fan base and like not seeing like their favorite god or what have you, as represented in a card, but like there was no sort of liberty taken. We also got Strixhaven, which was like magical Hogwarts, and we're redefining all of the enemy color pairs, and sort of, like just there's like breaking the mold that they consistently set in the beginning, like Q1 and Q2, and then Q3 and Q4 they get back to the core Magic that grew the base into what it is today. I just sort of want to get your idea on that. Do you like the direction that they're taking this? Do you think it's a good direction to experiment, and then get back to their roots to sort of like save face for the end of the year?
I would say yes. I definitely have a feeling of like, I kind of liked Magic. Like I don't know the right word. I want to say it was simpler. It's not. It's so much more complicated than any other fucking card game I play. But like, I played, as you know, I played Hearthstone for fucking years, so that's where all of my card game comparisons come from. Where like Hearthstone just got fucking wild. Like half the time you barely even knew what was happening. Like if you kept up with Magic, you could like definitely always know what was going on. And I don't want to say it's straying away from that, and it always comes down to me to, okay, Strixhaven released Foretell, or not Strixhaven, Kaldheim released Foretell and Boast. Are we going to keep seeing Foretell and Boast, or is it going to be, hey, that was a thing that we did that one time? Hey, remember that? Wasn't that fucking kooky?
I think the perfect example of what you're talking about right there is the Ikoria mutate mechanic, because there's no fucking way we can see mutate on anything unless we go back to Ikoria for some reason. Like they might release it in like a Modern Masters 2 or like a Modern Horizons 2 sort of set, where they're just like grabbing like all the fucking keywords and like putting them in the set and like just like detonating a format like that. But I mean, we have Cyberpunk Ninja Kamigawa coming up. What are we going to see in that? That's never going to be explored any further. We have Streets of New Capenna, which I don't know if you know this. It's Italian mobster theme with demons running families. You got your gabagools and your meatball demons running crime. So
if extort isn't already a mechanic, I'm calling it now that it will be.
Extort is definitely a mechanic, but I don't think it's the way that you want it. It's like whenever you cast a spell, you can pay a white or a black, and then everybody loses one life, and you gain life equal to the life lost.
I almost made a deck around that. That's why.
The keyword I'm sure. Extort.
Because it sounds like a loose enough mechanic with not enough support for me to want to build a deck around it for sure.
And so I guess I got your idea on that. Like, you're nervous because we keep seeing these mechanics that are sometimes a hit, sometimes a miss, sometimes fucking busted, sometimes not even relevant, like Boast. Have you ever seen anyone play a Boast card in Commander?
Yeah, dude, when you said Boast, I was like, oh, right, we got Boast this year, didn't we? That happened a whole... Did we even use it when we did a Sealed of Kaldheim? I feel like we didn't. No, we did. I remember because the dog, the red dog.
Yeah.
That I actually think I have in a Pauper deck now, or almost put in a Pauper deck. Yeah. That had Boast, and I was like, what the fuck does this even mean?
I think that's like the only place you're going to see Boast is in like that limited environment or like a draft environment. But I guess I should clarify with you because I don't really know the answer. Do you prefer the story being told through the cards and the sets, or would you rather just be an aside to the game? Like, this is the world it's set in and these stories are separate? Because they've sort of done both in the past. And currently, the story is like backseat to all the product that they're releasing.
That definitely makes sense to me. I don't know if I agree with it as someone that is also incredibly invested in the lore of a different world being 40K.
Yeah.
We see a lot of things come out that aren't related to like what this... I mean, hell, not to get super far into it, the current story that's being told in 40K happened 10,000 years ago. They're wrapping up the Horus Heresy books. 40K takes place in the 40,000 or the year 40,000.
Yeah.
The Horus Heresy takes place in 30,000. So like it's totally separate, which I think I prefer, especially I guess it depends on how big people are into your world. Like I don't know how big the MTG lore community is. If it's a really big one or like, you know, a decent enough portion of Magic the Gathering fans, I would definitely say split off. Just tell stories. You don't have to tell stories about the set that is currently happening. Like, maybe focus on them or have some, like, key highlights happening with the sets because at the end of the day, we know that this is a business and they have to highlight the product they're selling. I get that.
Right.
But just going, ooh, we just did Kaldheim. That was some really fun storylines. Everyone seemed to really enjoy those. We'll see you in 10 years is absurd. Like, if people like these characters and like what they're doing, like, you're not only are you Wizards of the Coast, you're Hasbro. Fucking hire some writers, man. Like, they could release separate books, and I'm sure people would buy them. Like, and if there's one thing Wizards of the Coast likes, it's money. We all know this. So, like, just release some books as well. They can be totally separate entities while being under the same IP, for sure.
So, the only thing about that is, if we're separating them entirely, I think we're going to get more planes like Ikoria and Kaldheim, where you have these mechanics where they're, like, sort of testing the waters on something, but they'll never be evergreen. Like, there's no fucking way they can justify Mutate being evergreen. Foretell,
right.
I could see
Foretell. Clarify what evergreen means at this point. I do not know that what that means in this context.
So evergreen in Magic the Gathering means these are keywords that you will see across all sets. You have flying, vigilance, trample, lifelink, death touch.
All the common shit. Everything that isn't set dependent.
Exactly. So like.
Okay, gotcha.
Regenerate used to be a evergreen, but it was confusing enough that they couldn't justify keep printing it because it just there was more and more situations where regenerate just got fucked.
Right.
So they took it out. Banding was another one that they thought about making.
My boy banding. No.
I know. So that could have been evergreen, but they didn't ever make it evergreen, I don't think. But
honestly, thank God though. That would have been awful. As much as I want to build a banding deck, God, that actually having that be in every set would just be so much work.
So, I guess what I'm trying to get at is, in the first quarter and the second quarter, they pushed the mechanics to like these crazy, degrees where like, and these directions that we'll never see again and we've never seen before. And I'm just thinking like, each time they do this, they're getting further and further from like, it's going to get too much at one point. I think that keeping the story, the main story, going through all of the sets instead of like taking these aside sets, like, I don't know if Ninja Punk Cyber Kamigawa is going to be like tied to the main story in a very meaningful way, but I would rather they just keep the story going through all of the sets and keep the mechanics that they experiment with in these sort of supplemental sets like Battle Bond. They can do another, they really want to introduce a whole new mechanic and really flesh it out, they can do another core set substitute like they do with D&D. But when we see all of these planes where you'll never see that mechanic again unless we go back there, it's just more and more becoming something that is harming the game, in my opinion. Take Mutate, for example. Nathan loves Mutate. One of our friends that plays loves Mutate. He has such a limited card pool to select from in terms of building his Mutate commander deck, that like he is very limited in the direction that he can go with it. He's done some pretty cool things with Mutate. He has some ideas with some new cards that are coming out. That being said, I think he's hit his critical mass on his Mutate deck of cards that just have Mutate. Like, there's no more that he can add in, and it might sit at like 1/5 of his cards can actually mutate onto another card. So like,
right,
that mechanic is basically useless in Commander after you remove the creature that he's building up. If you remove it twice, that's all of his fucking cards with Mutate in the graveyard.
Over.
Yeah, so like at that point, you know, I start to feel bad. Like Foretell, for instance. How many cards have Foretell that are actually worth playing? Not a lot. But you have to play a ton of them.
With the Foretell precon,
yeah,
there are not a lot of cards that are worth playing with Foretell.
You have to play all of them that you can, because Foretell largely is a control mechanic. So you want people to be looking at the cards that you have in Foretell and be like, is that a Saw It Coming? Is he just going to counter this shit for 1 blue mana? Is that a Raven form? Is he just going to like nuke my bomb drop? You need to put speculation into your opponent's decisions when you play Foretell. That's what one of the strongest things about it. Are we ever going to see Foretell again? Probably not, unless we go back to Kaldheim. I think when we get sets like this that are just the mechanics are just anomalies in Magic, I think it's harmful for the players, especially when something excites you. And it's not your fault that you're excited by Mutate or Foretell, because both of those mechanics are cool. Fuck, if you're excited by Boast, that does suck a lot, and that might be your fault because there's not a lot of great Boast cards. But I get it. It's very flavorful.
12, yeah.
It's like you're attacking and you're insulting someone as you attack them. That's what the Boast mechanic basically boils down to. So, you might love a mechanic and then never see it again. And that sucks. Like, that sucks as a player.
Yeah. I totally agree. That very much hits a lot of the things that I was going to say as well, especially as, I would say mainly, but exclusively as a commander player. If I find something like that, and like banding isn't the best example, I know it was around for a bit, for like a decent bit there.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I want to build a banding deck, it's like, okay, I have 150 cards to choose from.
Yeah.
Minimum 50 of them are shit. Like actively bad.
I think it's important to talk about the fact that in Commander, when you play at a level that's not competitive, one of the best things about Commander is finding cards that fit your deck that would also fit somebody else who's running the same Commander's deck. But when you get down to what's actually in the deck, aside from the staples, you guys have completely different cards in them. And because of that, your deck just performs differently. It might perform better, it might perform worse. But you're making unique 100-card singleton decks. And these mechanics, like Mutate, you're going to see all of those decks are very much the same.
Yep, exactly.
And I think that's, at least to our Commander format that we love so dearly, it's very damaging. But to wrap up this thought, I think if they keep the story with the cards and the sets as they release, and they keep the story as somewhat of a focus and not just like on the back burner simmering away, I think we will get away from those sort of mechanics that we'll never see again. And I'm not exactly a fan of the first and second quarter expansion and like ideas run rampant, and then sort of rein it back in Q3 and Q4 so that they can bring us back to something relevant. But that about wraps it up for the episode. But this has been the Bad Tutors podcast. We talked for close to 2 hours now about Magic, so join us next time. We won't talk about Magic for 2 hours. I can't promise that.
We definitely cannot make that promise.
But follow us on our social media. Ian, why don't you shout that out since I don't have social media?
Yep, you still refuse to step into the 21st century, Grandpa. We are on Instagram at Bad Tutors Pod, and obviously, if you're not checking us out through Anchor, you can find us there, Spotify, and in most other places that isn't Apple Podcasts. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you have a great week.
Bye now.
Have a good night.